Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you again on this Monday morning, the 1st of March, as we move rapidly towards our first anniversary of living with lockdown restrictions. Yeah, we've almost got used to them by now, haven't we? And it's easy to get nostalgic and to think longingly after the days when all we had to worry about was load shedding. And we hadn't even thought about lockdown restrictions. Load shedding when we had no power and we were occasionally thrust into darkness, where we realized that we could live without stoves and microwaves because there was always the braai. We could even live without our TVs, but to live without light, oh, that was terrible. And so we all rushed off and we bought extra candles and we bought lights that had rechargeable batteries. Do you remember the good old days when that's all that we had to think about? Now, I know I'm being facetious, but the whole issue of living in darkness and the light that comes into the darkness is one of the constant themes throughout our Bible. And it's this matter of light and, to a lesser extent, darkness that I want to look at this week as we work through our daily devotions. We complained about load shedding, but there's a much greater darkness than simply physical darkness, and that is the darkness that comes from spiritual blindness, spiritual darkness, not being able to understand or see any of God's truth. The Apostle Paul, when he wrote to the church in Corinth, his second letter, talks about the God of this world, which the New Living Translation describes as being Satan. Let me read to you the New Living Translation version of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 4, where it says that Satan, who is the God of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe. That's spiritual darkness, having your mind blinded by Satan. Those who don't believe, they are unable to see the glorious light of the good news. They don't understand this message about the glory of Christ, who is the exact likeness of God. And it's that spiritual blindness that results in spiritual darkness that has been caused by the God of this world that we are in conflict with. And no matter how straightforward we try to make the message of the good news of Jesus, so many people just do not see it, do not understand. And the reason is because the God of this world has brought about spiritual load shedding that has thrust people into spiritual darkness. Living in darkness, blinded by Satan, unable to see the good news. You know, when I think about the blessing of the gift of God, the blessing of forgiveness, the blessing of knowing the freedom that we have, not having to be bound by spiritual rules and restrictions. It just seems to me amazing that people don't want to accept it. But the good news is not something that is accepted because of intellect or lack of intellect. The good news is something that is understood because the Spirit of God breaks through the darkness and he brings light to our understanding. And the good news about Jesus is something that, well, what the New Living Translation talks about as being the glorious good news. Is something that is understood when the darkness is taken away. And this morning, as you take time out, won't you take a few moments to think back to maybe there was a specific incident, a specific day, or when it was that you realized that you were able to see and understand the glorious good news. You were able to, the light penetrated the darkness, and you could see the glorious good news about Jesus. And then, won't you just take a moment to thank God for breaking through your darkness, bringing light to your life? And then to end your time perhaps by thinking of someone who is still struggling, who is not interested, because the God of this world has been able to blind them to the glorious good news, the light that Jesus brings. And pray for them. Pray that God would break through their darkness and give them understanding. This week we'll talk some more about the light of the gospel. Until tomorrow, God bless you.